Hello and welcome to the India Hangout. We are trying to understand some of the numbers that have been coming out in some more detail and also to see what we've missed and what we've not as we break down the big mandate of elections 2014. Joining me, Rajeeva Karandikar of the Chennai Mathematical Institute, Yashwant Deshmukh of polling firm CVoter, and Chakshu Rai of PRS Legislative Research, the firm that looks at parliamentary data and parliamentary performance. Now, let's begin with Yashwant Deshmukh, since he has a flight to catch and will be leaving us shortly. Yashwant, let me begin with you, and let me ask you first some of the larger trends, and perhaps we're going to recap some stuff that we've already asked you for and you've shared with us. But if you were to now look back at the results that came out on Friday, the three key or the biggest trends that you see or have seen from a data point of view.
Well, the three, if I have to give in that priority, I guess that the first key would be the shifting of the Dalit votes largely in favor of the BJP across India, and that shift is the turning point of this election, largely because of the fact that there is a significant middle class, not just in the urban India, but also in the rural India, among the Muslims, among the Dalits, and this middle class is behaving more like a middle class vote bank rather than their own caste and religious vote bank.
Right.
So this is the biggest turning point of this election, that middle class established itself as a concrete vote bank, cutting across the caste and the religious lines. That is the biggest finding, number one.
Okay.
Finding number two is that in a very typical federal way, those leaders or the chief ministers who have performed well or have delivered or maintained their status among the voters have actually managed to perform well, even defying the Modi wave, I would go to an extent, because we have seen chief ministers like Naveen Patnaik getting a record fourth term, chief ministers like Pawan Kumar Chamling a record fifth term. For the sake of record, Pawan Kumar Chamling has now become the longest serving chief minister in India, eclipsing the record of Jyoti Basu. So that is important. Mamata Banerjee or Jayalalitha, these are the strong leaders who have performed well at the regional level or their state level, and they have managed to counter the Modi wave very effectively, if I may say.
Okay.
So performance at the micro level matters a lot. Even from the BJP camp, you can see the popular chief ministers have given a sweep. Modi himself being popular chief minister, 26 out of 26. Vasundhara Raje, 25 out of 25. Shivraj Singh Chauhan, 27 out of 29. Raman Singh, 10 out of 11. Manohar Parrikar, 2 out of 2. So on and so on. You can see even the good chief minister from even the Congress camp. For example, the only state where Congress has managed to do well is Kerala. You know, where Uman Chandi has taken the credit of that getting the seats or saving the seats for the Congress. So the structure or the governance or delivery of the governance, that matters the most, no doubt about that, and that is where the defining line is. The point number two.
Okay.
Point number three would be the shift of the issues, would be the basic idea how as a country we are moving ahead, and in fact this entire election puncturing the idea or puncturing the hollow debate which has been taken around in the name of secularism versus communalism. So people could see the entire idea of secularism has been largely abused by the non-BJP parties just to keep themselves in power. That is why entire concept of being a third front, or entire concept of having a secular agenda, those kind of concepts did not click with the voter, for a simple reason that people were thinking in terms of governance. People were largely looking out for delivery of governance, and they were looking for a proven track record which Modi had to offer, and they went in a very, very presidential way of polling, voting for Modi rather than voting for any other factor.
Okay. Great. I think you've given three good points, Yashwant, for us to begin on. If I can come back to the first one, right, where you talked about the whole shift of vote away from caste and really the creation of this pan-India middle class, which is across urban, rural, and so on. is it possible to substantiate that in some ways, even if in percentages, if not in absolutes?
Well, I don't have the data sheet right now in my hand, but yes, I can tell you that, for example, in Uttar state like Uttar Pradesh, where the Dalits used to vote, say, almost 85 out of 100 Dalit voters used to vote for Mayawati. That number has came down drastically just to 30 to 40. And similarly, the number of Dalits which used to poll hardly about 5 to 10 in 100 to BJP, they have catapulted to almost about 40 out of 100 to BJP. That's huge jump from every parameter. Similarly, is the case of the Muslim voters. Hardly about 4 or 5 out of 100 Muslims used to vote for the BJP. This time, our data is showing almost about touching between 15 to 20 out of 100 to BJP. That's a substantially huge jump. And you have to credit that to the middle class station of most of the communities across India in the last 20 odd years when the economy has opened up. So opening of the economy has come up with a large middle class even among the Muslims. And that Muslim, particularly educated, urban, middle class Muslim, has gone ahead and voted for the Modi. Even they have not taken the orthodox route of tactically voting against the BJP. This is huge. This is not a small thing to happen in India. And especially when we are talking about Modi as a polarizing figure, the guy who is trying to become the prime minister with the most divisive agenda and whatnot.
Okay, Yashwant, you also said you were saying the other day that there's a poll that you're running across the country on the sort of after effects of the election. Are the results out with you?
The results are very much with me, but my clients have asked to release them the day when Modi takes oath. So we are waiting for that. I cannot give a preview of that because of the editorial constraints at the moment. But yes, these are very interesting results. What I can tell you that they are pretty much in line with what we have discussed so far. About what has been the mandate of this election, what has been the agenda of this election, what has been the perception or the aspiration of voters when they went out to vote for Modi in this election. This election had nothing to do, as far as Modi mandate is concerned, had nothing to do with Hindutva, had nothing to do with the hardline ideology. It had everything to do with the agenda of governance, with the agenda of delivering what has been promised, with the agenda of providing relief in terms of inflation, with the agenda of providing opportunities to get educated, to get employment, for the gender equity issues, for the security concerns. You name every possible thing, it is there, barring Hindutva in the agenda. So I think this should be an eye-opener, not just for the guys who are doing the politics of secularism, but also to large extent, I would say, even for the BJP or RSS to understand that this mandate, this historic mandate that has been given to them is not really to push the issue and the agenda of the Hindutva, but rather it is very much on the aspiration of the middle classes and this young India and the demography cutting across all the sections with an aspiration to be governed well.
And right, and Yashwant, that also obviously, increases the weight on the NDA to deliver, because clearly this is adding up to a whole bunch of promises or perceived promises which these two governments, which the governments have to deliver in coming years. Okay, so I'll just come back to you in a moment, Yashwant. Rajiv, let me get your sense of your broad takeaways from the data so far. Is there anything that you've picked up now that you've had about 3 days to look at it more carefully?
Yeah, firstly, everyone has been debating on and on and on whether this is a wave or not a wave.
Yes.
Now, I don't see any way other than to conclude that this is a wave.
Okay.
Now, some people have argued that, oh, but look at what happened in Bengal and Tamil Nadu, in Odisha, the sitting chief ministers, they got most of the seats. Now, when we are talking about wave, we are not talking in terms of seats. We have to look in terms of votes, and that too incremental votes. So in North and West, where BJP already had a significant vote, the wave which gave them additional votes, and that transformed them into an absolute winner. In states where they really did not have any base vote or very little base vote, this wave gave them a huge increment. And as Yashwant said, I was not able to hear him completely, but as Yashwant said, Probably it is middle class, but it is there across all social sections.
Okay.
One point which I had said also on air, that in spite of all the propaganda about, or all the comments by the so-called secular parties about Mr. Modi, the BJP this time has got 9% of Muslim votes as per our survey, and 1% is for their allies. So 10% vote of Muslims to NDA. And we compare that with the Vajpayee era, when I'm doing this more from my memory, that BJP used to get about 5 to 7% votes of Muslims. So if anything, it has significantly gone up, and probably if one tries to do a root cause analysis of that, for that one needs a much larger survey data, because as we segregate, the numbers become small. But it is the aspirations of the younger India, aspirations of middle class India, and they are moving away from their tags of religion or caste.
Right. Rajiv, you know, there's my first question to both you and Yashwant, and let me begin with you. You know, one of the big points going into these elections has been the emergence of the new young voter, the first-time voters and so on. How are we sure at this point of time that it is indeed this voter which is saying so, or has voted as much, the way you described it or Yashwant described it?
No, because in our survey, when we do the age-wise analysis of the voter, it's very clear that there's very strong among the youngest voters. They're generally strong in every age group, but the age group where there's BJP and allies are strongest is the young voter.
Can you give us the? Rajiv, can you tell us the numbers? I mean, like for instance, would it be 18 to something, and what percentage would that constitute of in your sample of, let's say, share for BJP?
Yeah, so 18 to 25, we are picking up 37% for BJP and 6% for the allies. So together 43% for the NDA, as compared to overall 40. So there is a 3% increment here.
Okay, Yashwant. Yeah, okay, Yashwant, do you have a corresponding number for that 18 to 25 group? How have they voted? Yashwant, I think we've got a slightly bad line there. Just come back to you in a moment. Rajiv, let me come back. You're saying so. If in contrast to this, what was this age segment that perhaps did not vote as, let's say, in the same manner for the NDA?
Before that, let me say something. This time we had been doing a sequence of polls, what we call the tracker poll.
Yes.
And one of the significant findings was that in January, for example, this 18 to 25 segment was already strongly voting for BJP and NDA, almost similar percentage. Now, the older age groups were not voting that much. As in the run-up to the election, as time was going by, BJP and NDA picked up in the remaining segments, and so the overall thing went up. But the 18 to 25 have been solidly behind them for several months.
Okay.
That is you can find it.
Yeah.
Towards the end, this segment 40, average 40, so almost every age group there.
Rajiv, just one moment. Yes, Yashwant, go ahead.
What I was saying, that we differentiate not from the 18 to 25, but actually from 18 to 22 for the first-time voters, okay, and then 22 onward for the guys who have voted for the second time. And what we figured out, that if for the youth, that means 22 onward, if the figure was about 37, 36 out of 100 for the NDA, among the first-time voters, it was almost 42, 43 out of 100 for the NDA. Okay. So definitely there was a very clear positive swing among the first-time voters for the NDA and the BJP.
So, and the flip question: who did not vote for the NDA in the, or relatively or proportionately?
Well, I can't say about the flip who did not. Earlier as well. But what I can say is that right from the starting, when the last year we started doing our tracking poll 4 times now, at that point of time we had come up with a headline that Congress is losing for sure. who was winning was not very clear. Since Modi was declared the prime ministerial candidate, that vacuum was filled up by Modi, and it became very clear which way now the anti-incumbent votes are going. But however, having said that, this is very interesting to note. One more point. Hello, are you getting my voice? Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Yashwant.
Interesting point which I would like to highlight, that if you pick up just 3 allies of NDA which were in 2004 along with the NDA at that point of time, just 3 allies who were not within part one, not was the NDA that number is bigger.
I think you're in a really bad line. Yashwant, just hold your thoughts there. I'll come back to you as soon as your line improves a little bit. Chakshu, can I quickly bring you in here? You put out a report yesterday, or was it on day before yesterday, which talked about the 4 or 5 key findings of the composition of the new Lok Sabha. Take us through that and what you found interesting.
A couple of things, while, as my fellow panelists have been pointing out, that there has been some change in how people have voted, and obviously there is a significant change in what the composition of this Lok Sabha is in terms of political numbers is. What hasn't really changed over the last, decade or so is the mix of people in Lok Sabha. So, for example, while Lok Sabha has been consistently getting older, that percentage seems to have only shifted. So the people above the age of 55 has gone up from 43% to 47%. Contrary to popular belief that a number of young people are getting elected to parliament, that doesn't seem to be the case. The number of MPs who are below the age of 40 has reduced actually, not by a huge percentage, by 1 percentage point. But about 40%.
We thought that thing would go up. Yeah.
Yes, but that's not the case. Okay. It's actually going down. So this time only about 14% of the people elected are below the age of 40. But considering as to there's no set definition of young, and politics being politics, assuming that 40 is the age for somebody to be politically young, that number has gone down. Interestingly, and media reports seem to be indicating that the number of women MPs has gone up. While that is true statistically, there are 61 women MPs in parliament this time around. The difference hasn't been much. Last time around there were 58 of them, so 58 to 61. Yes, it's gone from 10 to 11%, but not a big shift. As is a reflection of society, parliamentarians are getting that much more educated. So the number of graduates stands at about 75%. It has dipped slightly. Last time around it was 79%.
Okay, Chakshu, I'll come back to you in a moment. I know Yashwant has to catch a flight, so he's going to leave. Yashwant, we lost you for a moment earlier. Do go ahead now.
Yeah, I would just like to make one final point before you get up with the headline that Yashwant Deshmukh was thrown out of the aircraft. One interesting that I would like.
Okay, I think we've lost you again. Yashwant is obviously about to board or has boarded an aircraft. Sorry, Chakshu, do come back.
No, what I was trying to say was that, across the board, if you look at parameters, things don't seem to have changed much. Parliament's getting older just by a little bit. Not many young people coming in, again, but just by a little bit. The number of women in parliament increased just by a little bit. So if you look at parameters other than political affiliations, we are roughly the same demographic of people in parliament that were there about from 2009 to 2014.
Okay.
There are obviously some interesting things which parliamentary enthusiasts like me try to look at. So for example, while L.K. Advani might be the one of the most senior politicians in this Lok Sabha, he would not be the one with the longest term in Lok Sabha. So for example, while Mr. Advani's political career started in the early 70s, when he became a member of the Rajya Sabha, he actually came to the lower house only in the 90s, right? So this is, I think, it's going to be his 7th term. Kamal Nath, on the other hand, started his political career in the lower house. I think for him, he's won his election again. For him, I think it's going to be his 9th term in Lok Sabha. Similarly, Sumitra Mahajan, a fairly tenured MP, will be in 8th term in Parliament. A number of left MPs, would be missed. Who were elected for a number of years.
Right.
So it's going to be a good mix of people, young people who have zero experience, older members of Parliament who have never been a member of Parliament but have done other things.
Chakshu, just hold. Chakshu, we've also got these graphics running alongside, so people can get a sense on what you're saying. Rajiv, let me come back to you now. Let's go to the states. Okay. I mean, I thought we would go through all the top 10 states or 12 states which really decide electoral outcomes. But let's look at the top 3 or 4 and your takeaways from what was distinctly different this time round.
Well, UP, of course, is the state which makes all the difference. I mean, this has been clear right from the beginning that BJP was focusing heavily on UP because UP and Bihar were going to be make or break. And that is where they made the maximum impact. And I guess even internally they had not expected that they are going to reach the figure that they have reached in these 2 states. But nonetheless, that was the deciding figure. And as early as July, we had picked up that in UP, BJP had already sprung to number 1 position from a distant 3rd in the previous year's assembly election. So it was clear that the ground was changing, ground reality was changing in UP. And I guess the whole thing was that there was this anger against the center, there was anger against the state government, and what BJP and Mr. Amit Shah probably, or led by Amit Shah, was able to do was to position BJP as the place to rally around, as the place which is going, as the party which will win and change things around. So I think the biggest story, of course, is UP, 73 seats in UP.
80, yeah.
Now the next, of course, is Bihar, where BJP had a presence, but they were a partner with JDU, and JDU had walked out of alliance, and there was a question mark. Once again, soon after the walking out by Nitish, we had picked up that actually BJP was the one which was leading and not JDU, and that continued throughout. As the campaign progressed, I think the JDU numbers went down, and especially when the Congress and RJD aligned, I think the Bihar, it became a superimposition of, we may call it 2 waves or 2 currents. One was pro and anti-Modi. We have to grant that there is always a significant anti-Modi segment too. So there is pro and anti-Modi. Likewise, there was people who liked UPA and people who were angry with UPA. So in both these equations, Nitish Kumar and JDU did not figure. If you like UPA, you of course vote for them. You don't like, you vote for BJP. Likewise, you like Mr. Modi, you vote for them, BJP. If you don't like Mr. Modi, that space was taken up by Congress RJD. So I guess this is what, a lot of people are that Mr. Nitish Kumar delivered good for the state by all accounts, and yet he's cut off. So this is one explanation, that the 2 dominant issues he did not figure in the equation. So third, of course, politically is Maharashtra. And once again, while 15 years of Congress and CP rule, very well set leaders there, but the anger against the center and anger against the state government together was propelling it in the BJP Shiv Sena direction. What we were not sure is that how it will play out in the end, because there was friction between BJP Shiv Sena too. But looks like all that did not matter, and in the end, the Modi wave, the incremental Modi vote which came in addition to all the other factors, just pushed BJP and Shiv Sena way on the top.
Right. So one more question, which, I mean, you've already alluded to it in some ways. So was this a Hindu vote for the BJP? I mean, we've already touched upon this, but can you, articulate this for us a little more statistically? I mean, whichever way your answer goes.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, as we keep desegregating, the answers become unreliable.
Okay.
So if you look at this age group, this state, on this issue, but the overall sense that one got that it was Hindutva were not, for most people, it was not even in the top 3 reasons which decide their vote. It was generally price rise, it was governance, it was leadership or lack thereof. These were the issues which were playing up, even whether it was the Congress voter or whether it was the Hindu voter, and whether it was the BJP voter. The religion and the Hindutva agenda were not figuring up much in the top, generally speaking, and this along with the fact that amongst Muslims too, the vote shares of BJP went up significantly. It was not marginally up, but significantly up. That is what leads me to believe that there would be an undercurrent. I mean, whenever BJP is winning, you can't say that there was no Hindutva vote at all. Okay? The question is, was it dominant or was it just there? I think it is the latter. The dominant thing was anger against the regime, the governance, lack thereof. Now people say that the Gujarat model is only a myth. Be it may, I'm not even debating whether it is true or false. Be it may, the BJP was able to convey to the rest of the country that it is real and that you vote for us and we will bring you prosperity. So I think the real agenda is that, and that also puts a lot of onus on BJP to deliver on this promise. Now, in fact, they don't even have the fallback option of saying that we were keen but our allies pulled us down. Now, they cannot do that. They themselves have got a majority. So it puts the enormous onus of on BJP to deliver. And let's hope for the sake of the nation that they are able to, I mean, everything promised will be too much, but they are able to make a positive delivery for the sake of the nation. That's what I hope.
Okay. Chakshu, can I come back to you to finish your thought, and then I'll go back to Rajiv as we conclude?
Okay. Govind, what I was trying to say was, while the profile of Lok Sabha hasn't changed significantly over the last couple of years, this Lok Sabha, just like the 2009 Lok Sabha, will also face a challenge, which is, close to roughly about 300 new members of the parliament coming in for the first time. And as new members of parliament coming in, they'll have a steep learning curve in figuring out how to, deliberate on legislation and scrutinize legislation. So, what is the role that the political parties play? What is the role that, institution of parliament plays in bringing up the curve quickly is going to be very important. The other thing to note is that a number of experienced MPs, have lost the election, right? So that would also affect Parliament's ability as an institution to scrutinize the work of government and to hold government accountable.
Right. Okay. Rajiv, as we go forward now, this majority also is, broken up into different parts. Obviously some candidates have won with stupendous margins, others have scraped through. What's the sense you're getting there? I mean, partly this relates to the earlier question of, is this a wave and therefore did it sweep everything, or have some candidates won on their strength or the lack of it?
I think mostly the candidates have won because of the label of the party or the alliance, mostly. Of course, in some individual pockets, candidate did win or lose because of whether they were liked or whether their opponent was liked or disliked. But I think largely it is the label. That's what at least I read it. Because with everybody winning that, in north and west wide area, almost everybody with NDA winning, that's the only conclusion one can draw. On the other hand, coming back to the point of composition of parliament, yes, new candidates, a large number of new members, this would be a very different parliament. But I sincerely hope that, instead of just dharnas and, holding the whole thing to ransom, or this ruling side bulldozing it through without any discussion, they actually have discussions which are meaningful, and the policy is fine-tuned depending on the discussion. You see, otherwise, the outsider's view is that the policy is made by bureaucrats. If you are a ruling party MP, you support it. If you are an opposition MP, you oppose it. I hope that changes.
Okay. And, the reason I was asking about the candidates was, I mean, this in some ways, I mean, I just want to leave with the larger question, right? I mean, if there was a wave, there was a party label, as you said, has the nature of our politics fundamentally changed? And I'm not asking so much for a sociological answer as an answer that's based more on what you've looked at, the data you've seen, the polls that you've done.
So I will say it has changed, whether it is fundamental and more important, is it lasting? I think a lot will depend on whether this government is able to deliver at least part of its promises. If they fail to do that, then it is back to old times. On the other hand, if they deliver significant percentage thereof, I think the change will be lasting. So the change is there in some segments at least, perhaps middle class, and that will stay depending on how they deliver.
Okay, Chakshu, any last gems that you've picked up from the composition of Parliament?
I think what Rajiv was pointing out was very important as to now one of the challenges again, so the thing about coalition governments is that there's that much more debate and deliberation. Well, at least that's what the idea was. Right now, with the single party rule, the role of Parliament will become even more important because that measure of check and balance when there are coalition partners and strong opposition is there. With a weak opposition, the role of Parliament becomes that much more important to make sure that government's not able to have its way all throughout, and the opposition puts, some kind of a viewpoint, not only just for the sake of opposition, but to actually
so that there's
ensure
some constructive fallout, as Rajiv put it. Chakshu, we've run out of time. I'm sorry to interrupt you there. Rajiv, thank you very much. We've got lots to discuss, of course, as issues keep coming up and this new government takes position in New Delhi, but we're going to come back. Thank you, Yashwant Deshmukh, as well, for joining us before you caught that flight, and see you folks soon on the India Hangout.